All right, assalamu alaikum. So we're going to be talking about volcanoes. So for the first lesson, we're going to start all the way at the beginning and start talking about the continents first. All right, so before we talk about volcanoes, we have to try and understand, where do volcanoes come from? All right, so let's take a look at all of these continents. Right, there's like 7 continents here, right? So we have North America. All right, that's where we live down here in Miami. All right, so we have North America, South America. All right, if we go all the way down through Mexico and Central America over here, we're going to end up down here in South America. All right, if we go across over here to what is called kind of the Old World, we have over here Europe. All right, so Europe includes countries like Germany, Spain, Italy, France. All right, we have Asia. So Asia is probably the biggest continent. Right. Then you have Africa over here, and you have Australia. All right. Now down here near the South Pole, we have Antarctica. All right. So we have a total of 7 different continents over here. So people live on these 6 continents, right, permanently. For the most part, people don't really live on Antarctica. Maybe only sometimes, like a few scientists might go down there in order to study things. But for the most part, people don't really live in Antarctica. But so why are we talking about the continents, right? So let's take a look at this picture over here, right? So take a look at these 3 pictures over here, right? This picture over here represents, long time ago in the past. Then from there, we get to this picture over here, and then from there, we get to this picture over here. So what are these pictures showing, right? What do you see from the first picture through the third picture? So this picture over here to the right, it kind of looks, closer to what the Earth looks like today, right? The continents are separated out a bit. But a long time ago, all these continents used to be all bunched up together into one giant continent. So that giant continent, they used to call Pangea, right? So all of these continents today used to be bunched up together into one giant continent. So how did that happen? How did these, this big land mass separate out into, many different continents, and then they all drifted apart today, right? So how did that happen, right? So first of all, let's take a look at, why do we think that all these continents used to be together, right? So if we take a look at, these continents, right, it kind of looks like South America and Africa kind of could fit together a little bit, right? For the most part, it seems like they can, fit together. So let's go back to, this picture over here. So this part of South America, right, is obviously separated now from Africa, right? These are no longer together. There's like a big ocean in the middle, right? This ocean in the middle is called the Atlantic Ocean. So right now, the Atlantic Ocean separates South America from Africa, right? But here in the edge of South America over here, all the way here in the east, right? They found some really old fossils that look very similar to some really old fossils from Africa. So if you look at this picture again, right? Take a look at these dots over here. They found that the same kind of creature that lives over here, that used to live over here, also used to live over here, right? So that's this creature over here. You see this bluish dot? That's this kind of creature over here, Mesosaurus. So this creature, they found, fossils, that, are buried deep in Africa over here, and also over here. In addition, you see this green plant over here, Glossopteris, right? So this plant over here, used to grow over here, and used to grow over here as well. So they found a lot of, places where when you put the continents together, it seems like the fossil record also fits together. So what people believe is that because of this, these 2 continents used to be joined together in the past, and that over time, Africa and South America have kind of drifted apart. They used to be together, but over time they drifted apart, and now there's a big ocean in the middle between them. Now, here's an interesting map. right? So what does this map show, right? This is a map of the world, right? But we see all these like tiny red dots all over the place. So what do these red dots mean? Each of these red dots is the location where an earthquake started. So let's take a look at the caption, right? It says figure 2.9. This is a map from 1953, and this map shows the distribution of earthquakes in the ocean basins. Notice that the earthquakes occur in belts. So what does that mean that they occur in belts? It means that they occur in kind of, in a linear fashion. They occur all together in some of these specific areas. So for example, there's not just red dots all over the place randomly. They kind of seem to occur in certain areas. Like in this small area right here, there's a whole bunch of earthquakes. In this area right over here, there were a whole bunch of earthquakes. Right here in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, there's a whole bunch of earthquakes, right? You don't just see like a bunch of earthquakes just anywhere in the ocean. They're all kind of bunched together right here in the middle of the ocean. So why is that the case? Why is that the case that earthquakes occur only in specific locations, not just kind of all over the place? So let's take a look at this picture over here, right? So this picture over here at the bottom also shows you earthquakes, right? So this picture is kind of like a modern picture. The other picture was from 1953, but this is more of a modern picture. So in this picture, right, it shows the earthquakes again as red dots. So again, they occur in belts. Wherever you see these lines, right, you see like a whole bunch of earthquakes. And then outside of that, there's not really too many earthquakes in other locations. So compare this, picture over here to this picture down here. So what do you notice? You notice that wherever you see the edges of each of these large colored shapes, that's kind of where you kind of tend to see the earthquakes happening, right? So let's go back up to this picture over here. What exactly is this picture showing, right? So first of all, if you notice in the background, you'll see the continents. Over here, you see North America, right? Do you see Florida down here, right? Here's Mexico, and here's South America, right? Here's Australia, right? You can see it clearly down here, Australia. You see Africa over here, and Africa over here. But on top of that, you see all these colored shapes. It looks like the Earth has been broken up into a whole bunch of different shapes. So in fact, that's how the Earth actually is. The surface of the Earth is not actually just one giant piece. The surface of the Earth is actually broken up into all these different pieces. So notice this one, that's kind of like this brownish color, all right? This is one piece of the Earth, all right? Over here, you see this blue plate over here? This is a separate piece of the Earth. This red piece over here is another piece of the Earth. Africa is another piece of the Earth. So the Earth is broken up into all these different pieces that are called plates. Each one of these pieces is called a plate of the Earth. So why is that important? So this is important because if we study this a little further, we see that most of the earthquakes actually occur at the edges of the plates. All right? You see, look at this brown plate over here. This is called the Pacific Plate. All right? So do you see a lot of earthquakes right in the middle of the Pacific Plate? Not really, right? Where do you see the earthquakes? You see the earthquakes all the way at the edges, of the plates. That's where you see the earthquakes, right? So remember, each of these tiny red dots is where an earthquake started. So the earthquakes are usually at the edges of the plates. So why do you think that's the case? Why do you think the earthquakes occur at the edges of the plates and not usually in the middle? Well, the reason is because each of these plates is moving and pushing against each other. And so let's say you have this Pacific Plate over here, right? This giant Pacific Plate and this blue plate over here, right? It says Australian Indian Plate. Right here at the edge, right between these two plates, these two plates are pushing and pulling against each other and trying to move against each other. So over time, what happens is that a lot of pressure builds up, and then suddenly one plate suddenly slips against the other, and everything shakes in that area, and that's called an earthquake. So for example, let's take a look at this location over here, right? If we go down here, we see South America, right? And you see right at this edge of South America, all the way here to the left, in the west, you see like a lot of earthquakes occurring right here. So why do you think that's the case? Let's take a look at this picture up here. Well, you notice this is the edge of South America, right? This is the edge of the South American plate, and this plate here is called the Nazca plate. So right at that edge, these two plates are pushing and pulling and trying to slide past each other. And when that happens, then suddenly one plate can suddenly slip and shake, and all of a sudden that shakes the ground right in this area. And you get some earthquakes in that area. Now what's interesting is that the places where you get earthquakes, generally, most of the time, that's the same place where you get volcanoes. So that's very important to know. Pretty much for the most part, the same places where you get earthquakes, those are the same places for the most part where you get volcanoes as well. Now this is a cleaner picture of all the plates, right? So take a look at these plates again. Remember, we just talked about the South American plate and the Nazca plate. Now this picture, right? Take a look at this picture. This picture shows you the plates, but also, what else does it show you? You see there's like all these tiny arrows all over the place. So these arrows are telling you in which direction these plates are moving. So let's take a look at this, these two plates over here. We have the Eurasian plate, right? This is a big plate. It covers, it includes, all of this land over here. And then you have the Indian plate. So what do you see going on at the border between them, right? Where is the Indian plate moving? Well, the Indian plate is trying to move up and push against the Eurasian plate. And then what is the Eurasian plate doing? Well, the Eurasian plate is trying to push south. It's trying to push down against the Indian plate. So both of these plates are trying to move against each other. They're putting a lot of pressure against each other. And so when that happens, a lot of things occur in that area. There's a lot of earthquakes occur in that area. Maybe some mountains form in this area, right? Because both of these are pushing against each other, and they push the edges up to form mountains. That's why you have a lot of mountains in this area, right? Take a look at these two plates over here. You have the Australian plate over here, and then here you have the Antarctic plate. See this blue one? This is the Antarctic plate. So these two plates are doing the opposite. They're trying to move apart from each other. They're trying to move away from each other. All right? So when they move away, they also cause sometimes earthquakes and volcanoes and things like that. So this picture over here, it shows you all over the place where these different plates are kind of moving. Now this one over here shows all the plates kind of taken apart, right? Imagine that we took the entire surface of the Earth, and wherever the plates are, we kind of, broke them apart into all the separate different plates. This is kind of what it would look like.